Today's guest founded a nonprofit organization to save school athletic programs when budget cuts eliminated them. Following numerous failed attempts to fund the nonprofit, he finally got his break. Today, it has over 6,000 participants and hundreds of volunteers. In today's episode, he talks about why he stuck with it and the source of his inspiration. Welcome to the Socks and Soul Podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Ditto. Thanks for joining us. Let's go. I'd like to welcome in studio my friend Mike Bresson. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Hey, great to be here. Thanks for inviting me. We've known each other for a while.
I know.
Yeah.
I was just thinking this morning about how we met. You know, we moved to Spokane, and then I had we've got 5 kids. I've got a bunch of kids in sports and stuff, and we got introduced to this cross country program that the elementary schools did. I didn't know anything about it, and my kids are active. And so a couple of them did pretty good at these, individual meets. And then they went to something called the All City Meet. Yeah. And I was like, the All City Meet, this is a big deal. And when I showed up, I was just blown away at how many people and kids were there.
Yeah.
And as, the annoying videographer dad that I am, I just chased kids around with a GoPro, made a little video and threw it up. And it was a little time after that I got a call from you.
Yeah.
And asking if you could put that video on your website. And I was a little embarrassed by it. I was like, I mean, if you want to, but that was kind of my introduction to you. And then we kept in contact, and we made some more videos for Active for Youth. And I remember the first time I came to your office and talked to you. And I was just blown away at your energy and your passion for kids and for running and for life. And it made me want to go do something spectacular.
Right.
Which I still haven't done yet, but I'm working on it.
I'll continue to inspire you, I guess.
Yes, please do.
Yeah. It was funny when I saw that video. If you were to meet my wife, which you have.
I love Heidi.
People that are out there. She's really cute. She's fun. She's funny. But of the two of us, I'm probably going to be more inclined to tear up and cry, and she's not. So I showed her this video that you did of that All City, and the music that you had on there was just perfect. It was really cool. So I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, that's awesome. Just captures, our program, and it was really cool. And just the high fives and your kids and how excited they were afterwards was really it's just endearing to me still. You can see my eyes a little bit. And Heidi be like, she would look at it, and here I'm choked up, and she'd be like, oh, that's really cool. I like that a lot. And so, but it was a neat video. And yeah, that was why I reached out to you. Cause for whatever you say is lack of sophistication on that video for us was like, whoa, I wish we had somebody that had this sort of creativity. So yeah, I was glad I could reach out to you, and I was glad that you're willing to come talk to me because you're a busy guy and you got a lot of stuff on your plate, but we were grateful for that, for you to do that. And
Mike, you have created something here that we're going to talk about over the next little while that is nothing short of stunning, miraculous, and life-changing for kids. And I can say that because I have 5 kids who have participated in this program. And truth be told, I am not a runner at all. I use running as a last resort exercise material. I ran yesterday, actually. Yeah, good. So I thought I better go on a run before I have Mike in my house. Otherwise, he might not want to do this interview. Right. But the impact that it's had on my kids in confidence in themselves, in staying active, in the friendships they've created, in pushing themselves, and we use it as an analogy in everything that we do. This running program that you have created. So the program is called Active for Youth. So rewind us back to 2003, 2004?
That was, I think, where the idea was born. So probably more like 2005, 2006. I met Heidi in 2004, and she taught at a school called Bemis, which is a lower income school in Spokane schools. And this program, I wish the inception of it was mine. It wasn't. The cross country program had existed probably in the late 90s, and during several school cuts, that program got cut. There are a lot of after school elementary aged programs that got cut, or programs for elementary school age kids. And so it got cut. And as from her working in that environment at this low income school and talking about the impact that these cuts were going to have on these kids was hard. I mean, it's like, wow, these kids can't pay for, I mean, they're Title I schools, so they're on free and reduced lunch.
Right.
So that means they're having a difficult time paying for lunch or food. How are they going to pay for sports? And quite honestly, I think sports helped keep me focused and directed. It helped give me a purpose and friendships and how you work together and all the things that you just described. And I just felt like, God, you know, I don't care if you compete at the highest level or what level you're at, but everyone needs that opportunity to build their self-esteem and that belongingness. And she would reinforce that with me. So I've always had that philosophy, but she would reinforce it with this program. And then when they cut it, she just said it was devastating. Like it was a tool they had in their toolbox of, if you guys participate in school, you don't act out, you're not in the principal's office, you're getting your work done. I mean, just then you can participate in this after school program. And to see that go away and to see that tool go away was pretty hard. So she would talk about the impact of losing this program was on her population, that tough population. And I was like, well, why don't we just bring it back? Stupidly, right? Like, who am I to bring something like that back?
I love that.
I
love that was your first reaction. You're like, okay, big deal.
Let's try and bring it back.
Fix it.
Yeah, and
it's already there. Let's just figure out a way to make it happen.
Well, if anyone's been in my office or my house, I mean, you just see I'm a train wreck. I'm disorganized. I'm probably like the 30,000 foot guy, but the details and stuff are scattered. They're there, but just not probably like you or your wife.
You're a dreamer.
Maybe
is what you
I don't
are.
even know if I'm that, but I'm definitely not everything's not in its place in my office. It is in my mind, but doesn't look it. So, for us to try and take this on was like, yeah, we'll just bring the program back. No problem. At that time too, was like when the CDC was making this big push on childhood obesity. So I was like, oh, no problem. School district doesn't have any money. There's grants like crazy for that out there. We'll go write some grants and no problem. We'll fund this thing.
Had you spent some time in nonprofits before?
No, not at all. No, but I had gone to, I had worked for a company called Skyhawks, and Skyhawks put on sports programs for kids all over the country.
Yeah.
And so I'd spent 8 or 9 years working with them just at a variety of different levels. So I felt like, I think this is something we could do, but I'd never written a grant before. And that was the only way we could fund this thing was by grants. But I figured, there's just this ton of money out there. We'll go get it. And so I formed the 501c3. I wrote a charter so that we could expand it out if we ever needed to, make it scalable. But figured our purpose would be elementary school kids in the Spokane County area, and started writing my grants. And I don't think I got one. I think I got rejection after rejection. I probably got 20 rejections. And every single one of these, and sorry, I go off on tangents. You can see I talk fast.
So it's worth noting that you're an attorney by trade.
Yeah.
So you have the wherewithal and the
hardly writing a grant is
at least like to form a 501c3 and do that stuff.
Yeah.
And so that was probably helpful at least in the process.
Yeah. And understanding the charter and stuff, and so we got that no problem.
So had you talked to it? I mean, who were you talking to? Had you talked to the schools and been like, hey, I got this. We're gonna fix this. We're gonna keep this thing around.
No, I figured that would be putting the cart before the horse. I figured if we get funding, funding,
I'm gonna put this in place. I'm gonna find the money, and then
I can go back to the district. The districts, because they don't have any money, they don't care who I am. But if I have money, they may actually talk to me. The superintendent might talk.
So
were
you and Heidi married already?
We got married in 2006. So at that point, I think. It's fuzzy there if I had created it before we got married or after, but it was probably right in that time.
So she was like, tell you what, buddy, you're really not up to my level, but if you can bring the cross country program back,
we'll get married.
I'll give you a shot.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. And so, I mean, I of course, being a good lawyer, I manipulated the facts on that and told her I had created it. But when, the application had been submitted, but we hadn't gotten the confirmation yet. So I duped her pretty well. So we got that process started. Yeah. So we'd gotten the 501c3. That's how really, when you're applying for grants, you need to have that anyway. That's that federal designation, that people can give you money.
That won't take it seriously if you don't have the paper.
Pretty much. Yep. So like I said, I applied for grant after grant and just got summarily rejected time and time again. And
is this 2006?
This is probably about 2006 to 2007 in there. Okay. And it was funny because every single grant rejection letter says at the very bottom, we really appreciate your time. If you'd like to learn more about why we rejected you or what you could do differently, call this number and we'll talk to you. I called every single one of them and multiple times, and no one ever picked up the phone or called me back.
No kidding.
Never got any feedback.
You had no idea what you were doing wrong.
Never written a grant. I've talked to some people, but I'm figuring these people could help me, but they aren't getting back to me. And one finally got in touch with one. So one of them was the Charlotte Martin Foundation. And I'll forever be grateful for this lady. I don't even remember her name, but she called me back and she said, we loved your grant application. We loved like what you wanted to do, but you're all over the map. And because of that, we just couldn't fund it. So the idea behind our initial Bringing Back Active for Youth wasn't just cross country. It was to bring back all the elementary sports program. So they had cross country, there was basketball, there was soccer, I think, and softball, volleyball, maybe.
So your idea out of the gate, your big dream was, I'm going to save all of the elementary school sports in all of Spokane.
Yeah. And that, when you looked at the line item on the school district's, budget, it was about a $300,000 proposition. So I understand why they cut it, but so I was writing this very nebulous grant.
How many schools are we talking about?
Well, at that time, there was probably about 36 or so in Spokane, Spokane Public Schools. So, it was a pretty nebulous grant request. Hey, I want $300,000 from your organization so I can put this on. And there's no succession plan really in my grant. There was nothing else other than, hey, this is what we're going to do. And it's great. You should like this because the CDC says we got this problem.
Kids are getting chubby. And so you should have a program and you should pay for it.
You should fund it, right? So this lady called me back and said, we liked your idea, but you're just too unfocused with it. And if you could focus this thing a little bit more, then I think we could fund some component of it for you. And so that really helped. That's all I needed. So I went back to Heidi and I said, of all the, we're runners, like you said in the introduction, we're runners.
You ran competitively in college, right?
No, I played soccer competitively. Oh,
that's right. You played soccer.
In soccer in college. But so running, I just kind of gravitated towards that. But she had run in college and we were like, well, what's the program that did what was the program that had the greatest impact on your student population? Me speaking to her at Bemis Elementary School, and we kind of came to the conclusion it was the running program, the cross country program, and the reason for that was, we could do K-6. So if we were doing basketball, well, it's a skill sport. So, you have to have some ability to dribble and pass and understand the concept of basketball. And yes, little kids at 5 and 6 can do it, but it's a little more frustrating.
Totally.
And of course, then you have space requirements with certain sports too. So like you only have a certain number of kids that can be in a gym at any one time. And then sports like soccer or softball, or even volleyball, you have equipment requirements. Yeah. And so we wanted to minimize that. Where could we get the greatest impact with the least amount of barrier to get into the sport?
Totally scalable. Yeah. Almost no equipment per se. Yeah. And anybody practically can be a coach.
Oh yeah. Well, and that part, that we utilize the school district staff for that, which is great. But going back to equipment, and even at Bemis, you just need some shoes. And I'll tell you what, kids showed up in any number of types of shoes. Yeah. Whether it was a nice running shoe or it was whatever, they had in their house, they would show up and run in it.
Especially these Title I schools.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. And they would run in, if you were to go to, a school, let's just take, on the South Hill, like a Hutton or something, kids are showing up in pretty nice clothes there. They have nice equipment. If you go to Bemis, where Heidi was teaching, kids are showing up and, pants and jeans and whatever they have, and they're just happy to be there. They're not that the other kids aren't, but they're just happy to be there running and doing that thing. So we figured the biggest bang for our buck was hitting, doing a running program. We could hit K through 6. We weren't worried about equipment. We weren't worried about anything like that. And then we just had to make sure that we could have a reasonable ratio, of kids to staff. Sure. And so once we did that, I rewrote the grant and submitted it to Charlotte Martin, and to her word, she funded it. They funded the first year of our cross country program, which was, I can't even remember the amount, but maybe it was around $40,000.
That's amazing.
And I think we wrote it too. I think what I did is I conned them maybe into it might've been a 3-year sunset grant. Like it was $40,000, $20,000, $15,000. Get us started. Yeah. We'll get a succession plan in place. Here's what we're going to do to fundraise. Yeah. Here are the partners that we think we have lined up. And then by the 3rd year, hopefully we're off and running and we don't need a whole lot more money. And my numbers are probably off on that, but that was the idea behind it. Sure. And then once I got that grant, I think I was like, oh my gosh, you got to be kidding me. And I'll tell you,
that must have been a
oh
spectacular
my gosh,
day.
it was amazing. And I'll go back.
What's our timeline here from, when you first started writing the grants and forming it to when that one came through?
08. It was gonna happen in 08. So from that, and I'll tell you, I remind me to bring you back on like where I had this epiphany kind of, to do this too, because I think that's important to come back to. But so we got the grant, and then I immediately turned to Bloomsday, because Bloomsday is just, as everyone in this area knows, Bloomsday is the pinnacle running event.
Tell us, our listeners that aren't from Spokane, what is Bloomsday?
So Bloomsday is a 12K. It is I think it's the world's largest 12K, if not at least in the top 3. So 50,000 people register for this race. It's run through, kind of starts in downtown, winds its way out in the outer parts of the city, and then comes and finishes back again in downtown. And like I said, it's 50,000 person party of running.
And Spokane only has 300,000 people.
Yeah.
So just to put that in perspective, granted, we're the second largest city in Washington State, but this is a gigantic event in Spokane.
It's huge.
It is huge. And it's worth noting, too, that Spokane is kind of known as a runner's town.
Yeah, it is.
There's a lot of great runners that have come from Spokane. Our high school teams compete very competitively at the state and national level. We've had a lot of kids go on to run in D1 schools.
Oh, yeah, and beyond, and professionally. So, it was, and Don Cardon, who's the guy who founded Bloomsday, was an Olympian. He finished 4th in the Olympics, I think in 76. If he's listening, he'll get mad at me, but I think that it was in 76. And just a fantastic guy. And I just went up to him, and we knew each other just a little bit from running. Hadn't spent a ton of time together, though, other than me probably grilling him with questions, which he probably hated. As you know, I'm a question asker. So, but I went in and I said, Don, we want to bring this cross country program back. We got a grant. Would you guys be willing to help sponsor it? And he's like, well, let me get the board together. And it was, I'm not kidding you, Kelly. It was like within a week or two, like the board had come together, and they brought me in and interviewed me essentially, like, how are you going to fund it? What's this looking like? And I don't think it was in a month we had the funding, a sponsorship deal with Bloomsday, to provide funding for the program too, and then that was the first year.
It's such a natural.
Yeah.
It's a perfect marriage.
Yeah.
You get all these kids running, and then they go run in Bloomsday. Yeah. I mean, it's so beautiful.
So there was one other piece we needed in there. We just needed one other little branch of funding, and the last group that we went to changed its name, but at the time it was called the Inland Northwest Community Foundation. It's now called Inovia. Mm-hmm. And so I had this grant from Charlotte Martin Foundation. I had Bloomsday on board. Now I just needed a bit more funding for this kind of 3-year plan that we had, and I went and wrote another grant with them. And those are 3 organizations I will forever be grateful for, forever. Just so indebted to them for believing in the program and jumping on board. So yeah, it was amazing. So they wrote this grant. We wrote this grant. They funded it, and in 08 we got to put the program into place. And it was funny because I went to the school district at the time. The superintendent was I think her name was Nancy Stoll, and she was brought in to really right the ship. Like I said, they were underwater, and she was just kind of slashing and burning. Yeah. And very pragmatic woman. She was in there to do a job, and that was it. And so I so I don't even know how I got an appointment with her, but got an appointment with her and said, this is what I'd like to do. And she looked at me and she said, we're in. You're funding it. We don't have to pay anything for it. And that was the whole goal. And I should have said that at the beginning. The whole goal of this thing is we wanted to create a program that didn't cost a nickel for a kid to participate in.
Yeah.
And so that's why we needed those 3 funding sources.
Because you were designing this for the lowest denominator. Yeah. Heidi was working at this, school in a low income area and seeing the impact that it had. And so for you guys, it was like the wealthy kids have their sports. They have their basketball, they have their soccer, whatever they're doing. And so this, in order for this to work, it has to work for this demographic.
Right.
Now, consequently, every kid in every school,
everyone benefits from it.
Has had incredible benefits from it.
Yeah.
No doubt about it.
Yep. So it was, for her, it was a no-brainer. And for as big of a ship as Spokane Schools is, she turned that ship pretty quickly, in meaning that we got that program in place. We got the right people who were going to push it down to the schools to do that. And I think that was in the late spring of 08. And then in that 08 school year, fall, is when we put the program in. And we had we had some really great key people helping organize it because it's a big beast.
It's a huge beast.
Yeah, and
30 schools,
at that time,
6,000 kids.
Yeah, it grew to that. But our first year was about 2,100. We that was more than we thought it was going to be. We were just glad to get it out there. But we had a lot more success than we thought. And so she was really helpful in getting the program off. The school district's been a phenomenal partner for us. The new superintendent came in, was Dr. Redinger, and she and I have had a great relationship. I mean, again, just she's provided resources to help our program grow, make it available. She's helped us with the Parks and Rec department because of the relationship they have. They've brought in personnel that have been specifically allocated to this program because it's grown so much. They use components of our program to help get funding for other after school sports programs. So like it was a really great marriage for everybody, and really have been amazed at how it all comes together. And this is the part I wanted to tell you about is, people out there who might be listening to this, and I certainly am not a preacher in any sense of the word, and I'm not an educated person on religion at all. But I have faith. I believe in God. I believe, I'm a Christian, but like, I remember, like, as I was kind of formulating this idea with Heidi, I remember just going out on runs and just having like these ideas pop in my head. You should do this. You should do this. You should do this. You should do this. And I'd come back and kind of write it down on paper and started kind of doing those things. And these relationships just kind of fall into place. And I just I always tell this, if you've been to our auction, that's one of our fundraisers. The first thing I do is I tell people, like, this is not my inspiration. This is an inspiration I got from, in my mind, God, who I just feel like compelled us to put this program together. And that everything that we do, the basis for this is all, in my mind, inspired by God. I don't text. I'm not on Facebook. I'm not doing this to glorify myself. I don't care if anyone knows that I put this program on. I really don't care. It's not about that. It's about glorifying God to me through these kids. Cause I couldn't go and I have a conversation with you about the Bible properly. I could ask you some questions. I read it and I understand some of it. I go to church and I get it from there. But, so it's not like I'm this well-versed guy, but I feel like, okay, if God can put a message to someone that's uneducated like me, and I can just say, okay, you know what, let's break down what's important about God and put it into this program without it necessarily being religion because it's a public school setting. But let's talk about the values and the character values that we want to build and the other things that you get from it. And if we can put that in a program for kids, then let's do it. And I've never been bashful about that. I've never had an issue with the school district about that. I've never had a parent come and say, oh, this is your mission, because of how we house it, but that's been important for us. And Heidi feels the same way. I mean, neither of us are out here to glorify ourselves through this program. We are hoping to be glorifying God through it, and feel kind of good about that. And I feel like it's gotten where it's gotten, not because of me, because I'm not an organized guy, as you know. But I feel like there's been somebody out there really helping us get some pieces in place, and it's just, for me, it's just got to be God doing that. So I know some people don't get that, in our day and age, and because they don't want to, or it just sounds silly or stupid, but that's what is important to us. And I always qualify it like that. Hey, you might think I'm silly, but this is what it is for us. And you may have a different reason why you like it. It doesn't have to be the reason I like it or why we started it. But if your kid's benefiting from it, then I'm fulfilling that purpose. So
That is an exceptional explanation. I mean, the whole purpose of this show, of this podcast, is to explore and identify a couple of things within people who do things that are exceptional. Why you do it, where the ideas come from, and then how you took it from that idea into what it is today. And it's interesting because multiple times on this show, I've had people talk about this voice in my head just telling me to do this. And even though it didn't maybe make much sense,
I love that.
I just, it was omnipresent. And so clearly, whatever source it's from, I believe it's from God.
Yeah.
You believe it's from God. Wherever that voice comes from, whether it's the Jiminy Cricket in your ear
right. or
the Almighty God, on high, whatever that is, my goodness gracious, follow that thing.
Yeah.
Because you think about where you started and what the program is today.
Yeah.
And the fact, and the other thing that I find really interesting and that I want to back up and have you explain is people will say, well, if God wants me to do this thing, then why didn't he make it easy for me? They love to say that.
Yeah.
They love to be like, well, if God wanted me to do, if he wanted me to do something, then he would have done it. It's like, you know what? He told Noah to build an ark and only 7 other people got on the boat with him.
Yeah.
That's got to be pretty discouraging.
Yeah. How do you think Jesus felt knowing that he was going to be crucified?
Exactly.
And so, no, it's not supposed to be easy. And I think part of it is, God, I'm having a hard time right now with this. Can you give me some guidance? And I think I don't know that I necessarily need an answer now, but I probably need an answer sooner than later. Like I'm not a patient person. So that's the hard part is, like you might ask God for something and the answer doesn't come right away, or maybe I'm just not listening to the answer and he has to tell me in some other way over and over and over again. But that, I just look at the challenges that come through this have built me as a person, and then it also gives us light on how can we make this program better for kids too. I mean, like if you're going through challenges because, well, I could give you lots of different examples, but I just think all those hardships, I don't know that they're hardships. They're just building, they're learning lessons. They build character, and then we can hopefully impart that on to people on our board, coaches that are out there, parents that are out there and complaining about stuff. It's just, hopefully we can take those hard lessons and say, oh, I need to make the program better for this, or this is an opportunity for me to maybe talk to a parent and just say, here's what this is about. It's not about All City. If your kid can go, great. But if not, it's this greater piece.
Man.
And hopefully we'll get a chance to talk a little bit about the program if we have time today. But that to me is really more, it's less about your kid got to go to All City, which I love. I love All City. It's an amazing event, but it's the path there.
Yeah.
And really not every kid will get there, but I see kids show up on first day of the program, or first day of the program when it starts for each year, and they can't run a mile. And then by the end, they can run a mile. Well, that's a big deal. And you're doing it at a cross-country meet where there's thousands of people at it.
Yeah.
And there are adults who are afraid to go run in races because they don't want to come in last, or they're afraid what people are going to think about them. So these are elementary school kids that have the same fears that we do, but they're out there doing it. So if those kids can do it, why can't anyone else do it? And that's my conversation with people. So again, that's just an opportunity for me to say, God, believe in yourself. Who cares if you come in last? Just do something for yourself that makes you a better person.
Before we started the show, you came into my studio office here, and we were talking camping and hiking. And you said something that I used to tell. I was a scoutmaster for years.
Yeah.
And I would have these parents come to me and they'd be like, listen, Kelly, my son doesn't really like camping, so I don't know that this is right for him. And I would look at them and I'd say exactly what you said.'d say, this isn't about camping.
Yeah.
In fact, camping is one of the many vehicles we use to teach leadership.
Yeah.
And I'd say to them, I don't think you can fully understand what happens to a young man when you take his phone away, you get the girls out of the picture, and you take them in the wilderness to do something hard for a week.
Yeah.
I said, the vulnerabilities and teachability of your young man in those atmospheres is something you can't even imagine. And they'll come back with a different attitude. And the parents that believed me, and were just like, just trust me, just go.
Yeah.
It was just like that. It was before you showed up. We were watching some of the the videos that I had made.
Oh yeah.
And one of my absolute favorite shots is, so if you can imagine, those of you that are out there, these all the meets are big. They have, so the way it's organized is they organize them by parts of the city of Spokane.
I'll go into it in a second. Yeah.
Anyway, my favorite shot is I was running behind this kid with a camera, right? Because there was nobody else coming. And I poked around the corner and you could see all the way to the finish line. Mm-hmm. And there were hundreds of people lined up on both sides screaming and cheering for this kid. And he's just running, and he must have heard my steps, because at one point he looks back at me and just with this big grin, and then just goes past the finish line. Yeah. And I just thought, if we could get every kid to have a moment like that, where they're running to the finish line and everybody is cheering them on, it is not about running.
Yeah,
it is about believing in kids and believing that they are worth something more than they even realize.
Yeah, right. I just love it. You paint a better picture than I do. You're more skilled and gifted at it than I am. And I wish I was as eloquent, but that just, when you say that, just gives me the goosebumps, because that's what I want people to feel like. Like, what a great feeling that kid, I hope, had.
And the energy in those meets, they're electric.
Yeah. Oh man.
The excitement of those meets and the teamwork and the sense of community.
Yeah.
To say it's about what place you get would be a tremendous oversight.
Yeah.
I mean, the purpose of that whole thing.
We have to talk parents off that ledge. Like, it's okay if your kid didn't make it to All-City, trust me, because it gives your kid something to aspire towards next year.
Absolutely.
And that happens. We see that a lot. The meets are interesting, and I can talk about the program, just how it's laid out.
Tell us about that.
Because of how you described it there. So what happens is, our program's been going since 2008, and it's just gotten better. So first year we had about 2,100 kids in it. The last year we ran, of course, not doing it this year because of COVID, but in 2019, I think we had about 6,000 kids in the program. So we're in 3 different districts now. We're in Central Valley, we're in West Valley, and then Spokane Schools. So there's about 6,000 kids. And just to give you an idea, in Spokane Schools, because that's the bigger one, or biggest of the 3, there's about 4,500 kids in it. There's 16,000 elementary school kids in Spokane Schools. So 1/4 of that population's in our program. And that's a pretty big reach when you look at other enrichment programs that are out there. So, that's a huge number. So at any given elementary school, so right now there's about 40 elementary schools. One of them is like, some of them are like the homeschoolers. There's a kind of a school for them. So they practice at homeschool, but it's not technically a brick and mortar school, but that's what they do. And then there's the Odyssey kids. And but there's about 40 elementary schools in it. And I mean, that's 100 kids pretty much on average, a little bit more at each school. So so our program starts about the first week after school starts, and it's 3 days a week. Kids have to get a certain number of practices in. So we have 2 weeks of practices. And what I love about this program is, again, it's pretty much K through 6. Some schools opt in or out on the K, but it's generally, that's what you got. And they show up, they have to get a certain number of practices in. And then the first meet, and we have 2 zone meets, is then in the 3rd week. And so what the zone meets are is we've taken these 40 schools, and you started talking about this a second ago, but we've taken these 40 schools and we break them down into sections, and then we assign a park to that section. So we call it a zone, and there's roughly 8 schools in each zone. And so what's amazing about this meet is it's not intramural where kids are just racing against other kids at their school. They get a uniform, and on race day, they get a uniform, they get a number. We time them. It's chip time race. And we put them on a bus, and we take them to the zone, the park that's in their zone, and then they get to race against other kids from these other 8 schools, or from the other 7 schools in their zone. So it's gender and grade specific. So it's first grade boys against first grade boys, first grade girls against first grade girls. And so on any given zone meet, you might have anywhere from 800 to 1,000 kids at it. And it's insane because you have that double in parents and family members. So, so if you go to a zone meet, as you were saying earlier, they're pretty electric. You have anywhere from 800 to 1,000 kids, and they're chanting their school songs. They're cheering for them.
The buses roll up, and like a bunch of matching crayons, these little kids come parading off these buses, hundreds and hundreds of them. And it's like, okay, that school, and there's like that school, they're all wearing neon green shirts, and then this one comes, and they're all wearing purple shirts and yellow, and then they get in these big circles, and they do jumping jacks, and they do stretches, and they're cheering and they're screaming, and then your meets are so efficient. I mean, you have your loop set up, and it's just like you stage them, they go, and then as soon as you guys think you can start and bam, the next one goes.
The next one.
And they're, I have, at the peak, I had 3 kids running at the same meet. And it was everything I could do to keep up. It's like, there the kindergartners went. It was like, okay, how long? Okay, I'm going to go. Oh, boom, there go the second graders. Wham, and off they went. It's phenomenal.
We have a guy named Eric Ewing to thank for that. He runs a timing company here in town. He's now part of Negative Split Sports, but it was his own timing company, and he came to us and said, hey, I like your meet, but I think I could make it better, and I'm going to donate my timing services to you for the first couple of years. So he did. I mean, he donated timing. We had to buy the chips, but his time and his resources He donated it.
And it's amazing because within a really reasonable amount of time, they're all printed out and they're out there.
So then that was the goal. It's like, so do you want to know if you qualified for All City or not, or what your time was?
Yeah.
It's posted literally 5 minutes after you cross the finish line.
And it's now online even.
And it's online now too.
It's just
so
incredible.
I mean, it's just gotten better that way. So he's been fantastic on that. And again, there's all these pieces coming together.
Yeah.
Because we knew, like, the old way that we timed it the first couple of years was, kids would run with a popsicle stick and they come across the line. You get a popsicle stick, you put it in order, and then you had this timing, kind of clock, and it would punch out time. So you hit the button and it would tell these splits, and we would associate it with the number that was on this popsicle stick.
Wow.
So then we'd have to go and take the number on the popsicle stick, take it to our roster, and it would take us almost 3 days to figure out who made it to All City. Well, then I was like, we gotta do something different about this.
Because
I'm running all these races
right?
and I'm getting my data instantly. Why can't we do that with ours? That's where Eric kind of came in, and so it's been huge. I mean, so kids, immediately. So if they go to a zone meet, sorry, I'm such a spaz here, but as I talk with your readers or our listeners can keep up. But what was it? What's great is these zone meets and our program. Because there's no skill requirement. There is. I don't care if you're there to qualify for All City, and trust me, we have very competitive kids that want to win All City.
Yep.
And we have kids that are just out there because their parents are looking for something positive for them to do. Mm-hmm. And our program is designed to accommodate every single one of the kids that are in there, from the kid that's just out there to walk and socialize to the kid that's super competitive and everything in between. And I love that about the program. And again, it's not just me. We had teachers come in and help write a curriculum for us that we follow. We give it to all the coaches. We put them through a training. I mean, it's just all these things are make the program, I think, very effective and efficient at getting our values out there, our character values, teaching them the importance of fitness and health. And hey, if you're a basketball player, you may not like running, but guess what you have to do in order to be a good basketball player?
That's right.
Or a football player, or a hockey player, or a soccer player. You got to run.
Yep.
It just doesn't have a ball in it. So let's teach you how to enjoy the components and the aspects of running, hopefully.
Yeah.
And so it's not like you just show up and you just run laps all day. I mean, we try and do it through interactive games. There's probably some of that running laps, but I think we try to do it in interactive games that help build your fitness, where you've got intervals, you've got fartlek runs, you've got different kinds of easy, fun days too. And what you see is the kid, as I mentioned earlier, the kid that shows up that's never run a mile before now can maybe by the first zone meet, maybe runs half of it.
Yeah.
And then the goal is at the second zone meet, they run a whole mile. And you know what? That kid, to me, every bit as inspirational as the kid that won All City.
Absolutely.
Because that's a huge, for me, it might even be more so, because for you to come out and know that other kids might make fun of you or laugh at you, and that happens, whether we want to admit it or not, it does happen. So for you to come out and for you to have the strength and determination to do that, and to not let anything stop you, and then to reach your goal, and then maybe to even get to the next one. And we have thousands of kids that are like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not just the one or two kids.
Yep.
And if you go to our zone meets, you'll see them, and they are the ones, and they get cheered on. Parents are fantastic at these
they're
meets.
so good.
And the parents are so supportive, so they're out there cheering these kids on. And so if you aren't fired up after going to a zone meet or All City, like your wood's wet, right?
Yep,
There's something wrong, man.
Absolutely.
Because they're pretty inspirational, and you see these kids just smiling and running, and then at these zone meets, you do have the chance to qualify for All City in the top 10 kids, or you can go by time. Top 10 kids qualify it. And then at the end of the program, so it's an 8-week program. So we have 2 zone meets, so they get to do it twice. They get to get on a bus and race against other schools. And they're well designed. I mean, the zone meets are flagged. I mean, it's not just some kind of sketchy little
you
race.
show up and everything's marked, and you got people guarding the line, so you don't got people wandering across them. And I've noticed that over the last 7 years, that's gotten even better and better and better. And so the kids get off the bus and they see it's a legitimate track.
Yeah.
It's a legitimate race. Like you said, I got a number.
Yeah.
And I get lined up and the gun shoots and off I go.
And think of the stress that has on a kid, man. You're by yourself, although you have your teammates around you.
Yeah.
But your mom isn't there holding your hand.
Yep.
Your dad isn't there holding your hand. You're in a starting corral, and you're a kindergartner or a first grader, and you've been bused to some park, and your parents there, but they can't be in the starting corral with you.
That's right.
think of that second grade, third grade, fourth grade. By the time you're fifth or sixth grade, like you've developed some inner confidence. Yeah. But that's a stressful situation. But these kids go there, and at the meets they can qualify for All City, and the kids that qualify for All City, it's pretty neat to see who qualifies and how they do it. But the All City meet is the penultimate event,
nuts.
and it has about 1,000 kids qualify for it. We do it with the same exact thing in the Valley. So what we do, this program I just described for you in Spokane schools, is replicated in the Valley with Central Valley schools and with the West Valley. So the exact same thing, we just call it All Valley there. So kids qualify for it. And at that meet, we have about 700 kids that qualify for it. 1,000 or so qualify for Spokane. And you see some phenomenal runners. Like there's some fast kids
I
out there.
remember one year there was a sixth grader who, so the way that they do these is they have a high schooler or an older kid run in front of the pack. They call that a rabbit or whatever they call it running. And I remember one year there was a sixth grader who passed the rabbit.
Yeah. For sure.
He was so fast. And so I noticed the next year they put the rabbits on bikes.
Yeah, right. So there's this one kid who, his name's Henry Bishop. He won All City every year he did it, except one year. And the only reason he didn't was he got hurt in a soccer game the day before. He crushed everybody. And so he might have been that kid. But yeah, it's neat. And it's neat to see the kids then, either they stay with it or they don't. But what we have seen is that the middle school numbers for cross country have increased since our program started, and the high school participation has increased too. And again, it builds competitive kids for sure, but it also just builds kids who are outrunning. And I think high school coaches, I think genuinely they want to see their sports go on, and they want to compete. They want to have a team that could win state, but I think they're just happy having big numbers out there too. Of people that they can impact because they want to teach kids, they want to lead kids, they want to impart their values on kids too. And so it's been kind of fun to see those numbers increase over time. It's a good program.
I remember a couple years ago when I was making one of the videos, I was interviewing
cool video,
you or Heidi or somebody, and they said you got to understand that for a lot of these kids, this is the first and only team they ever compete with. This is their only shot, at organized sports. And because we don't cut anybody, everybody participates, everybody gets a uniform or a shirt. It's just this beautifully all inclusive. And the other point that was made during that interview that I'll always remember is this is one of those sports that you can just do forever. You can just find that it's your passion and just do it.
Or just help you keep healthy and clear your head. I mean, figure out how to clear your head, after a stressful day or
for sure
before a stressful day. There's so many great intrinsic qualities about running that I know some people just don't like because it doesn't feel comfortable. Like you said, you're not a runner, but there's something about it, when you're done with it, it's like, God, that hurt, but it sure feels good now. I mean, my brain feels a little less cloudy or, I feel like I'm on this great high. I feel like I can accomplish some things. And I love that about running. I mean, it's, and I think anyone can do it. And I don't care how fast you do it. And that's always what I get is, I can't win that race, or I'm going to be slow, or who cares? Who cares what you look like in shorts?
Right.
I don't care. I'm not going to judge you. Just go out and do it because you're going to better yourself. So I don't know. I'm, I guess, preaching a little bit now, but
well, you talked about kind of the meditative powers, that happen when you run, and that's, as much as I resist running, that is an undeniable part of running. Is I'll go out and run for 30 or 40 minutes. And my mind is just full of ideas and full of things I should do. Or there is undoubtedly something about being out there by yourself, moving your body, and just listening to yourself.
And that movement, getting the blood flowing, getting the oxygen flowing is good for your brain activity too. And that's what's important. We're a generation's not the right word, but we are moving towards more computer, which means more sitting, more sedentary type of activities, gaming and programming. And I'm not suggesting that those aren't important things, but getting up and moving is going to help you be better at those things. And of course, you see some of the health impacts that people who are sedentary have. I mean, they aren't out moving. They're eating not necessarily the most healthy diets. But I think if you start getting involved in something, even if it's just a very simple running program, I mean, you're going to want to eat healthier. You're going to, I would like to hope that maybe that comes from it too. And that's what we hope we're imparting with these kids is you can do this forever.
Yeah.
And here's some other things. Remember, a nutritious snack or nutritious lunch or breakfast helps you in your race. You know, and so don't pick the muffin, pick something that might have carbohydrates and protein in it. And that's part of what we try to teach these kids at our program too.
Yeah,
I don't
absolutely.
know. I could ramble on tangents, so sorry.
It's a great way that we can teach healthy lifestyles ongoing, and what you've done to influence those kids is just, it's mind-boggling. It really is.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying you, but it is Heidi and it is all these other people that are out there doing a ton of stuff that I wouldn't be able to do without them. And
it's true,
really feel like
but years ago, there was a man who watched a program get killed, who was told by somebody, go do this. And in 20 grants later, the door finally swung open.
You know what popped in my head as you did that was, do you remember the old Bill Cosby Noah's Ark piece? Did you ever hear that?
Maybe. It sounds familiar.
I want you to build an ark.
Yes.
And it was Bill Cosby who was funny, who's had his issues, but that was one of the funniest pieces. And as you said that, I was just thinking, here's God telling me to build this ark. But you're right.
Build it.
Listen, you're not capable of building an ark, but you can put on a running program. So go put on a running program.
I wanna talk about your mental health. You talk about keeping our body fit. You're in phenomenal shape. You run marathons and all that. Talk to us about what you do from a mental standpoint to keep yourself mentally fit. A couple of weeks ago, I interviewed Sandy Zimmerman, who is the Ninja Gal, and she, I really was interested since that podcast on what you achievers do to keep your mental side of it healthy and positive and moving.
Well, I think that obviously running helps with that because, like when you said you're running and you have all these thoughts go through your head, when I go for a run, I mean, just things are popping in and out, and it's just helping me, or I'll have like a difficult case. How do I deal with my response, or what am I going to do? So running really helps me kind of organize my thoughts.
Yeah.
In any given day, and I don't think I'm unique here, but I might have 10 things that are swirling around in my head, and I'm trying to figure out how to organize those thoughts. And sometimes those thoughts become so overwhelming because there's so many of them swirling around, and I'm trying to prioritize them. And sometimes just going for a simple run helps me really just kind of settle down and just start thinking through, okay, this is the priority. This is how you respond to that. And when I come back from running, I can go right and grab a piece of paper and just jot down that organizational, however I want to organize that series of events or activities. And so I just think running has been a huge key for me. And if I got hurt and I couldn't run anymore, I would be the same if I biked or swam or walked. I mean, I would just do whatever I could to go out and get that time because it's peaceful. I don't listen to music when I run. And I think it's great if people do. I don't, because it detracts me from what I get out of running, which is that opportunity. And then at that point too, again, it just sounds stupid, but I talk to God. I think, just what do I do about this? Or just saying, thank you, God, for, for this. And I think thanking him and being grateful for what he does. And then, saying, hey, God, can you watch over these people or this thing or that? Just gives me some solace in the day. It makes me grounded. And I think that helps me also settle down a little bit. I don't know if that answers your question.
That is awesome. It while you were describing that, I had this thought of, and I'd never really fully put the two together about, yesterday, 2 days ago, I went on this run first thing. And I came back like renewed and refreshed and excited. And I had all these ideas for, my business and my podcast but as you were describing that, it made me want to make the process even more deliberate. You talk about having 10 things swirling around in your head. Like that's how we are right now, right? We got families and kids and work and
school,
church and school and COVID and everything. And it's like, what an interesting exercise it would be if I, listed the things that I wanted to think about, and actually made it a deliberate point of meditation on my run say, I just want you to work on this thing. Well, I'm running today. I just, I want to expand this part of my life. I want to be a better dad. I want to whatever.
Yeah. How do I do that?
I'm just going to let my mind work on this during this run.
And then there's other times, I don't know if you've ever experienced this too, where it's just cathartic to go out and do it and your brain's just got nothing to focus on and all these things are coming in and out, and that's just kind of good too. Sometimes I find if there's something that I'm irritated about or mad about, like I will find, just going out and aggressively hitting a run kind of helps
Yeah.
get some of that anger out of me as
Yeah.
well. Not that I'm proud to be angry, but I think sometimes I'll just
Yeah.
be mad about something, and
Yep.
it just helps to get that out. So I think it helps me be a better dad and a better husband, for my family. So again, everyone has their reasons for doing what they do, but for the mental health, I think that's a big piece for me.
Yeah.
Just again, my head, I would probably be on the spectrum of ADHD. You can hear as I talk here with you, I talk fast and have things popping in and out of my brain all the time. So
We're getting 3 hours of podcast done in 60 minutes with Mike
less
Bresson
than that,
today.
right? 15 minutes. But I feel like that is, that helps me slow things down a little bit in there too. Cause stuff's just flying around in there sometimes, and that helps me ground myself.
Man, it's so great. It's so great to hear that. So, what's the future of Active for Youth?
Well, I think Heidi and I would love to see this be a program that succeeds us, like in death. I don't know what that looks like, what that means. I have no idea what school's going to look like next year. But
Right.
but if school gets back to normal, obviously, our game plan is to just continue doing it. In Spokane County, we've had we've had some people reach out to us and say, "You did it there. Could we do Active for Youth in another, in some other city?" And we wrote the charter for that purpose if we wanted to scale it out. But the logistics behind it are, you got to have the right person take that on.
And you
another
need to
city,
have a connection in the school district, like you said.
Yeah, that's an easy
is
sell.
like
It's an
on
easy
board.
sell because if you come in and say, "I've raised the money, I want to put this program in," schools districts are really interested
Like,
in
what do you
that.
need from us
Yeah,
then?
exactly.
Right.
And that's what makes it a good partnership.
Yeah.
So it's just finding the right partner who understands that there's some fundraising involved in it, and that's the part I hate more than anything. I hate the fundraising, but I hate, like, when fall comes in. I was talking to this guy yesterday who said, "Are you missing it?" And I said, "I sure miss the program, but I don't miss the fundraising." Like, I hated that. And that's you helped us with that a lot. That's what your videos were intended to do.
Your fundraisers are phenomenal. I mean, you pack that room with, I don't know, 300 or 400 people, and they are passionate about running. And the first time I went, you invited me to create a kind of a keystone piece for what they call Raise the Paddle.
Yeah.
And, we kind of had identified this story of these 5 girls who were at a local high school who were getting ready to compete at the state level. They had all run in the Active for Youth elementary school program. And what we decided to key in on was their first run. What was your first? And they all have these hilarious stories.
Yeah.
I showed up in jeans. I came in dead last.
Yeah.
We made a hole for the other team to fall in, and I fell in it.
Yeah, she fell in it herself.
Hysterical stories.
I can't remember that gal's name, which is a shame because she's running at Tennessee. She's a fantastic, Division I full scholarship.
Yeah.
She was amazing.
And those girls went on to win state.
They won state.
They won state that year. But, I remember, showing this video and all of these people who just were all in, and they went on to donate a bunch more money. And then you come up and you're just like this.
And just ruined it.
Bouncy ball of fiery
I ruined
energy.
it. Yeah, I don't know.
Not even close. And it was just like, as you explain the way that God had directed you to put this into place and get the ball rolling on. And I recognize that there's lots of people that help make the program going.
Yeah.
But at the front of this program, there had to be this ball of energy, and it's you, man.
Maybe.
You may not be the detail guy, but you are the fireball of energy up there. And we can do nothing if not just grab your coattails and try and hang on for dear life,
You're way
man.
too nice. And if you're listening to this, he is lying. But I appreciate that. But that would be the one thing if I could pass that on to someone else to do, I could stay with this program forever. But I think as our kids age out of the program, and Heidi and I started this program before we even had kids.
Yeah.
We didn't do it because of our kids. We did it because of kids in general. Like, we just felt like this was important for kids in general. But at some point, I think it'll need some new blood. It'll need kind of someone who's impassioned about what it is that we do and wants to compel, kids to run and continue doing this. And I think, if that happens, great. We'd love to see that
Yeah.
down. So is there a succession plan, or do we have a goal? Again, at this point, I don't, other than no, we just kind of live day to day, and the
Yeah.
program goes year to year, and but we don't see it not happening.
Yeah.
And the district has never once said we're not going to support it and we're going to pull away our resources from it. They have, and again, Dr. Redinger, who's now left, she's at a different district now. She made it a priority to get our program in front of kids. She dedicated resources to it that we couldn't afford. The school district did it. I mean, it was just a great thing. And so I see, if we stepped away, I could see there being a way for the school district to take it back on. I wouldn't want that necessarily.
Yeah.
Because if they have a bad year and they have to cut again, I wouldn't want the program to have to start all over again. But I could see, the relationship with Active for Youth and school district going on in all three school districts. I always talk about Spokane schools, and the reason for that is because that's where I started and that's where I had my most history. But Central Valley and West Valley have their superintendents, Ben Small, and they have a new superintendent in West Valley. But they've been unbelievably supportive, equally as supportive as Spokane schools. So I always feel like I don't give them their fair share of credit too, because those districts fully vested in the program, and their teachers are equally as invested in the kids there. So I don't see it fading out. I don't see it going away. I hope it continues, for a long time, well after we're long gone.
Well, the meets are magical. The energy is magical. The whole program is phenomenal, and I've seen that change in my kids' lives.
Yeah, I'm so glad. I've really been grateful that we've gotten to meet you and all that you've done. I mean, I think you've done a handful of videos, at least 3, maybe 2 or 3. 4?
Yeah, I mean, I've done 2 or 3 just on my own with my kids, and then collaborated with you on a handful of others. A couple of fundraising ones, 2 or 3 fundraising ones, and then some other. And it's just been awesome. I mean, who doesn't want to go film a bunch of kids who love running, and a bunch of parents and teachers who are just totally invested?
Yeah, totally on board.
I mean, it's fantastic.
Yeah,
it's just the best.
Pretty fun environment. And it's hard because we aren't curing cancer. We aren't, we aren't the crisis nursery. We aren't the Union Gospel Mission. Those have some amazing,
no doubt,
results to them, and their missions are incredible. SARS aren't like that, and so, but we do feel like there's still a niche for why it's important for kids to be part of it, and hopefully we impact some of them, and that's the end of the day. One memory just popped in my head of these kids. I don't know why. Again, it's just the 1,000 things that shoot through your head. But there was one meet. We talk about kids and their belongingness. It's fun to be belong to something. It's fun to be a part of something. And again, some kids are really dialed in on the competitive aspect of it, and some aren't. But there was a couple of years ago, this one little kid seemed like he was struggling. I don't know if he was crying. I don't remember that part of it, but he was ready to be done because it's a mile,
Yeah.
And there was a kid who was in front of him who was just having a blast. He was hamming it up with the crowds and shaking hands and doing fives. And I don't know if he heard something. I don't know what it was. That kid, I hope I don't get choked up. He turned around and saw the other kid, and he walked back to him, and they held hands across the finish line. And we have it on tape. This Eric Ewing that I told you about. I mean, like he's like, Mike, you got to see this. And it was amazing. Like there was nothing. It wasn't like a parent said, you got to go get him. It wasn't like there was a coach saying, go do. This kid just turned around, who was happy and full of joy, and found this kid and helped him across the line. And the parents went ballistic.
Oh yeah.
And that kid that was struggling, that may have been his greatest day.
Absolutely.
And I hope that stays with him forever.
Yes.
And the kid that helped him too. Man, what an amazing thing. And I just think those things happen at the meets all the time. And I just don't see it or hear it. I can't be at every meet. And coaches can't be everywhere out there. But I just think you see a lot of great things that happen out there that are little tiny things. But those little tiny things are just nuggets. They're just little tiny grains that when they're planted and they're nourished just a little bit, they start to grow. And that's and then hopefully some other thing impacts and continues to help that seed grow. But I just love that story.
That's
cool.
And that is the perfect example of why athletics are so important to us, especially as young people.
Yeah.
Because no matter what's going on at home, no matter how hard school is, you put us out there, you make us sweat, and then something magical can happen.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
One of my kids is there was one year where, and the one older than her and the one younger than her both made it to All City, and she didn't make it.
Yeah.
And she's not as, interested in athletics as maybe the other two are.
Yeah.
And it was so interesting the next year watching her make that goal for herself just to make it to All City.
Yeah.
And, and we told her, we're like, look, it's not about making All City.
Yeah.
That's not what this is about. But if that's your goal, we're with you.
Yeah, we're in.
We'll support you. We'll do whatever you want us to do. And when she made All City the next year, you can never erase, what she was able to do because she put her mind to it.
Yeah,
and now I watch her in other aspects of her life have goals and have things she wants to do, and she does them. And no doubt this played a critical role in her self-confidence and being able to do it.
Yeah. And how cool that you guys supported her in that too. That's so important. And what's neat is parents, you can harken back to that moment and say, I know you're struggling right now, but remember when you did that? Remember how hard that was?
Yeah.
Remember the sacrifice and the pain that you went through to run that mile, and you did it.
Yeah.
And the 8 weeks that got you there, you can do anything if you can do that. And it might hurt. There might be some tears, but you can do it. And again, even if it's just getting a mile under your belt, or if it's going to All City, it's all good. And I remember the first video you did for us, your son, had finished, and he was so elated, and just your interaction with him was so cool. The 5s that you guys did and the hug, and and he got he got his certificate and his shirt, and you guys made such a big deal of that. And he was, and all your kids were, but I remember him for whatever distinctly. I mean, you could just see how proud he was.
Well, he was a very late bloomer. I mean, you watch him run in elementary school, and he looks 2 grades smaller than everyone.
Yeah.
And so for him to finish, and to beat some kids, and I mean, and he's always been pretty athletic, but I mean, it was huge, and it was awesome, and it's an accomplishment that you can't ever erase.
That's neat.
It's so fun.
Very cool,
man. Okay, so I wore these socks. These are running socks.
Yes. I smelled them when I came in the door.
I thought I'm going to wear some running socks. These are my start. So these are running stance socks, and they got stars and stripes on them in honor of an upcoming election. But you got some doozies here.
Tell me
about these socks.
Yeah. So these are socks my wife had made for me last Christmas, and they've got my kids' faces on them.
They're fantastic.
So one of them is my older boy is Brooks, and he runs for the Spokane. They both run for Spokane Mercury too, and he's got his Mercury hat, and he's just happy as can be. He's just got a big smile on his face. And my other one is goofier, and they're both smiling, and my kids smile and laugh a lot, and we joke around in our family a lot, and they get teased a lot. And so anyway, if I wear these socks to court, they're mismatched, obviously, but
one is kind of black, the other is kind of light blue, and they have just the cutout of the faces of his boys, spattered throughout. They're spectacular.
So I wear them like on Thursdays are generally my court day. I have to go deal with guardianship stuff. And so I try to wear these as often as possible. And then it's kind of a contest. Like, do you wearing mine or his?
That's awesome.
So, but I just feel like my kids I love being a dad.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I did my running stuff before we had kids. So I don't feel like I have to go run now to prove something or be something. And I'm not saying other people do that, but so I hope that didn't sound bad, but I feel like I got that stuff out, and I just feel like I just love being a dad. I want to go to their events. I want to coach. Yes, I get frustrated and probably am not a great dad at times, or whatever, but I just love it. I love them. I love being in a family. I love just working through problems with my wife, with our kids. And I don't know, they're just inspirational to me. I think about them like you do, so they're having them on my socks and just thinking about them all the time. They aren't the inspiration for Active for Youth. Like I said, we didn't even have them when we started it, but they certainly are part of it. Just that Brooks is the older boy. He's just a fun kid, and he'll be a late bloomer, I think, too, athletically. But the kid, he's a hell of a runner. and so like he may not be the best guy on the basketball court or the best kid on the soccer field. And that'll come, as he develops a skill, it just comes different times for everyone else. But man, he can run.
That's so great.
I love our Saturdays and Sundays. We go out and run together.
Oh, that's
We'll
great.
run during the week. And those are some of my favorite things. So that's why I'm wearing these socks.
I love them. So I have a pair of socks to give you.
Oh, yes.
And I was, I was like, maybe I'll get him a pair of running socks. And I was like, that's a terrible idea. I'm not going to do that because I'm sure you have dialed in. So I grew up with baseball being my sport. I love baseball. Cool. I was a pitcher and I'm left-handed, so I got I had a little bit of an edge growing up playing baseball. And it's October, and so it's baseball season. And anyway,
that's nice of you. You did not have to do that. Cool.
So I got you a pair of these. So I got these. So these are really Stance socks, which are a great brand. I really like. And anyway, they got baseball team on them, and they're super comfy.
That's really cool. Thank you. You didn't have to do that. These are fun. So they're like they have like that. My son Rory, the younger one's gonna love them because they look like Minecraft.
They totally do.
Socks. Yeah. So he's gonna want to steal them from me, and I won't let him.
Yeah.
And love only goes so far, right?
Yeah.
Good pair of socks.
When I catch Addison wearing my socks, it's not good. I'm just like, listen, pal.
You stepped over the line
this is one of my things.
Yeah.
See, I used to steal my dad's socks, but they were all the same color. They were all white tube socks.
Remember? And they had the two stripes on the top, like the blue or green or whatever.
Yep.
I love those too.
And
thank you, man. This is really thoughtful. I appreciate your letting me come in.
You bet.
Kelly, you've been such a huge part of what we've done. And so, as we look forward, I'm hoping there's other videos in our future with you and other just interactions because just outside of what you've done for our organization, which has been huge. That one year, by the way, that you did the video on the 5 girls, I think that was our biggest netting auction. Like that was really well received.
Yeah.
Our speaker that year was amazing too. Was it not because of me?
Yep.
He was a really good speaker and it just all flowed really well that year. And
it
of course,
beautiful
the
event.
person that put that on again wasn't me. As a woman named Meg Demand who was with us for years and put those things on for years, like
She's
tirelessly
fantastic.
without getting paid for several years.
Yep.
Again, why would she do that?
Yeah.
Just amazing people who I think just God just brought her to us. So
I've loved working with Meg.
She's awesome.
Yep.
So, I want to make sure I give her a shout out too.
For sure.
But anyway, thanks, Kelly. You've been great to us, and I was really tickled that you would even think to have me come in here. And I hope there's some decent information that your listeners can get out of this because
it's been fantastic, Mike. Make no mistake.
Thanks.
I've really enjoyed this. So Mike Bresson, his the nonprofit he started is called Active for Youth. It is a remarkably successful cross-country program for elementary students, elementary kids. And so if people want to help out, how do we find you?
Yeah, great. And they can see your videos on there. They can go to activeforyouth.org and you can either do active, the number 4, and then youth, youth.org, or you can spell it out, and the FOR. And so, you can donate online if you wanted to get involved by volunteering or sitting on our board, or our greatest needs. And I appreciate your asking. Our greatest needs is our program is cash dependent because Heidi and I don't generate any income from this.
Yeah.
No one on our board gets paid.
Yep.
We do have an executive director that we pay a little bit to, but I would say 95% of the money that we get goes to the program.
Yeah.
And that's paying for coaches, that's paying for insurance, it's paying for buses, it's paying for uniforms. It's on the grounds being used. So the greatest way people could help is really by a financial donation if they can.
Yeah.
And this is the part about, you ask what I like or don't like. Like I hate asking for money.
Yeah.
Like I feel weird doing it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's the reality. Like our program is just cash dependent. So that would be great if people wanted to help out. But for those that don't have it, or they've kind of earmarked their money for other things, and there's a lot of great causes out there. We do need help with setting up programs, tearing down the meets, setting them up. Obviously, if people wanted to sit on our board or help with our fundraiser, there's lots of places where we can plug people in. So thanks for asking. I do appreciate that.
And this is a more than worthy cause that is changing kids' lives. It's an amazing program. So activeforyouth.com. I'll link that in the show notes. I'll also link all of the videos that I've done
please
over
do.
the years.
Start with the first one because I think people will love that one.
We watched it this morning and I was like, oh man, look at how bad that production quality is.
So great.
But it captures the emotion of the
song
event.
was awesome.
And I better give credit. Annie picks almost all of the audio.
Telling me that. She does a good job. Yeah.
So My wife has just a sense of that. So
Well, she's always upbeat
amazing.
and she's inspirational too, but she's always upbeat and happy.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've ever seen her without a smile on her face.
she's remarkable.
So yeah, you're lucky.
Being an elementary school teacher right now is making her a little
edgy.
but otherwise you're absolutely right.
I'll say the word edgy for you, but
Yeah, there you
I
go.
think we all are.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks for being on the show. Thanks everybody for joining us. I hope you found this inspirational. We'll see you next time. The Socks and Soul podcast is a production of Ditto Film Media. If you enjoy this content, be sure to give it a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. Join the conversation on Facebook at Socks and Soul Podcast.